If you were bullied as a kid, there's a good chance you learned something early that other people didn't have to learn until adulthood. That people can smile at you and still mean harm. That the room can turn on you without warning. That safety isn't always about locked doors. Sometimes it's about tone, glances, timing, who laughs, and who doesn't. And if that was your childhood, you probably didn't just get over it. You adapted. Quietly. Brilliantly. In ways you might not even recognize as traits. Because when you're bullied, your personality doesn't just develop. It gets engineered under pressure. And pressure does something strange to humans. It can crack them. Or it can sharpen them into something rare. Not better. Not stronger. Just different. One of the first rare traits is how quickly you read people. Not in a mystical way. In a survival way. You can walk into a room and feel the social weather before anyone speaks to you. You notice who's trying to dominate. Who's performing kindness. Who's looking for a target. Who needs attention like oxygen. Other people call it intuition. But for you, it's more like pattern recognition. Your brain learned to search for danger the way other kids learn to search for fun. And it makes you perceptive. Sometimes painfully perceptive. Because you don't just hear what people say. You hear what they mean. Another trait is a specific kind of humor. Not the loud, center stage kind. The sharp kind. The kind that makes people laugh and then think, wait, that was actually true. A lot of bullied kids become funny for a reason that isn't cute. Humor is one of the only shields that can disarm a room without starting a war. If you can make them laugh, you can buy yourself a moment. A pause. A reset. A chance to be human again. So you learn comedy as a language. And now, even when you're safe, your mind still reaches for a joke the way a hand reaches for a railing in the dark. Then there's the ability to disappear. This one is hard to explain to someone who's never needed it. But you know how to become invisible without leaving. You can make yourself smaller in a conversation. You can nod at the right times. You can give people the version of you that keeps the peace. You learned how to be low maintenance before you even knew what that word meant. And yes, it can look like maturity. It can look like being chill. But a lot of the time, it's the skill of staying unpunishable. Because when you've been bullied, you learn that attention is not always a gift. Sometimes it's a spotlight. And you learn what spotlights can do. Another rare trait is empathy that isn't performative. Not the kind that posts inspirational quotes. The quiet kind. The kind that notices the person who got talked over. The kind that feels the tension in someone's voice and doesn't make them explain it. A lot of bullied kids become experts in emotional subtext. Not because they were born gentle. Because they were forced to study humans. You spent years watching how people become cruel. And if you're lucky, you also learned the opposite. How badly people want to be treated with care. So you become someone who remembers. You remember what it felt like. You remember the heat in your face. The confusion. The loneliness that shows up in a crowded hallway. And because you remember it so clearly, you don't want to pass it on. Even when you're angry. Even when you could. Then there's loyalty. The real kind. The kind that doesn't show off. Bullied kids often don't have a huge circle. They have a small one. But when they love someone, it's not casual. It's not social. It's personal. Because when you've had to earn your right to exist in a room, you don't take people for granted once they make you feel safe. You notice who stays. You notice who protects. You notice who doesn't make you prove yourself. And you don't forget it. Another trait is a complicated relationship with approval. You might act confident now. You might even look unbothered. But deep down, you can still feel how powerful other people's opinions used to be. When you were a kid, being liked wasn't about ego. It was about survival. So your brain may still treat disapproval like it's bigger than it is. A simple cold tone can feel like a warning. A delayed text can feel like rejection. A neutral expression can feel like a verdict. It's not because you're needy. It's because your mind learned, a long time ago, that small social shifts can become big consequences. And it never fully forgot. And then there's the most misunderstood trait of all. The way you crave authenticity. Not the trendy kind. The real kind. The kind where people don't make you guess. Where compliments don't hide insults. Where kindness isn't a strategy. where you don't feel like you have to interpret everything like a detective. If you were bullied, you tend to develop a deep intolerance for fake warmth. Not because you're cynical, because you've seen what fake warmth can turn into. You've seen the smile that becomes a joke at your expense 5 minutes later. You've seen the friend who laughs with you and then laughs at you. So now, when something is real, you can feel it. And when something isn't, you can feel that too, even if you can't prove it. Another rare trait is your ability to handle emotional solitude. This one has two sides. On one side, it can feel like independence, like you don't need people, like you're self-contained. On the other side, it can feel like being emotionally offshore from everyone, like you're present, but never fully landing. Because bullied kids often learn how to be alone before they learn how to be held. They learn how to get through things without comfort. They learn how to swallow moments that should have been shared. And later, when love finally shows up, it can feel strangely unfamiliar. Not unwanted, just unfamiliar. Like your system doesn't trust it yet. And if any of this is landing, there's a deeper point here that matters. These traits didn't appear because you deserved what happened. They appeared because your mind is intelligent. Because you adapted to a situation you should never have been in. Because something in you refused to disappear, even when people tried to make you feel small. So yes, if you were bullied as a kid, you may have developed rare traits. Not because bullying was a gift. It wasn't. Not because pain makes people special. It doesn't. But because you had to become observant. Because you had to become careful. Because you had to become emotionally skilled earlier than you should have. And if you've spent years feeling different, like there's a layer between you and the world, I want you to hear this without turning it into a lesson. You're not defective. You're not behind. You're not too sensitive for noticing what you notice. You're the person your younger self built in order to survive. And maybe the most healing thought isn't, look how strong I became. Maybe it's something quieter. Something like, of course I turned out like this. And in that sentence, there's no shame. Just recognition. Just a kind of respect for the mind that kept you here.